Good morning. What is up, Dan and Amy? This bit of breaking news, according to The Hill and a couple of other outlets.
Yeah.
A man named Evan McMullen, who is a former CIA operative and the current chief policy director of the House Republican Conference, expected to announce an independent presidential bid today.
What?
He's going to try to get on 20 to 30 state ballots, and his candidacy is specifically focused on stopping Donald Trump.
All right, well, good luck with that. Haven't others tried that before or thought about that?
We'll have
French.
We'll have more on that story, but this individual is apparently actually doing it. We'll have more on that story, but I want to return to the issue of the Paul O'Neill shooting, since those 9 videos were released on Friday. 4 body cam videos, 5 dash cam videos. This is, again, the 18-year-old black kid steals a Jaguar, speeding up and down the streets, sideswipes one police car that he's coming at head-on, which results in one of the officers in that car opening fire, and then crashes head-on into another police cruiser, which and then leaves, exits the vehicle. That precipitates a chase. He's ultimately shot and killed by Chicago police. Michael Oppenheimer, the plaintiff's attorney for the O'Neill family, had this to say.
These police officers decided to play judge, jury, and executioner.
Now, you expect a little overheated rhetoric from a plaintiff's attorney, but that does not square with what you see on those videos, in my estimation.
No, in the videos, this guy, O'Neill, used his vehicle as a weapon. He was trying, in my estimation, to run down the police officers and kill them, and they fired shots back. And there was, like the fog of war, what happened, and after the shooting, the body cameras picked up this.
I know when the shots were coming at us, when the car was coming at us. That's all I heard was shots. I don't know if they fired or not. But we came head on. I took off this way. He was coming over this way. When I approached this way, I didn't know if he was armed or not.
And that was an officer.
And so Police Chief Eddie Johnson said at a news conference over the weekend, a lot of people are upset by what they saw. Quite honestly, they have a right to be upset, which was interesting. And the head of the Independent Police Review Authority, Sharon Fairley, said she found the video, quote, shocking and disturbing. So a little bit of judge, jury, and executioner from the police department and IRPA side. For more on this, we're happy to be joined by our friend Dean Angelo Sr. He's, of course, the president of Chicago FOP Lodge 7. Dean, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good morning.
So why don't we start with the reactions before we get into the details of the incident, at least as memorialized in those videos. What is your response to the quick response, the judgmental response from Chief Johnson as well as the Independent Police Review Authority?
Well, I'll start with IPRA. Those kinds of comments coming from someone who's supposed to be doing a fair and impartial and unbiased investigation right at the onset is a little concerning. It's part of what I've been talking about for months now, that you have a civilian organization investigating police-involved incidents that don't have the wherewithal to do that, or to do so, because any investigator involved in police work would never make statements about an investigation that is just beginning, like the ones that were made the other day. That's completely unacceptable, and that is why, and another example of how they just don't have a handle on this.
I know it's early in the investigation, but do you think those 3 officers felt that their life was in jeopardy? That's the reason why they shot at Paul O'Neill?
Well, it's hard to put yourself in the mindset of the police officers when they're there. You can see the event unfold. It happens in a matter of moments. The reactions that were done were done by individuals that had a heightened sense of anxiety, had a heightened sense of fear that something was about to happen. And when you have a situation of this nature, and the policy was changed under Gary McCarthy. So there's a couple of different issues at hand. We have administrative issues, and then we have the incident that results in the death of O'Neill. So there's a lot of aspects of this investigation that have to be put together. And it's very early right now at this stage.
Well, what about this matter of the opening fire? The one officer who opened fire, this against the new protocol of not shooting into or at moving vehicles if that's the only weapon that the assailant is using. Now, there is a kind of an out. We talked to a criminal defense attorney last hour, made the point there's sort of an out that, you still are allowed to take reasonable precautions in protection of your life. So it seems to me, though, this is going to be the critical issue in terms of litigating this or investigating it at the IRPA level, because the shots that were fired by the first officer at the first car that the assailant came upon created confusion as to who was firing with officers down the block.
Well, the officers that were coming down the block that were eventually hit head on had the fear that they were being fired at, and they were under the assumption, I believe, that the offending vehicle was the one where the shots were coming from. Now, I've not seen any case reports. I have not interviewed anybody in this process at this stage. So, it's very difficult to put yourself in those shoes when these things come out and occur so quickly. And, we're waiting on further discussion and further discovery. And, the lawyer, you mentioned, the family's attorney, some of the statements he had made prior to even seeing the video were completely inaccurate. And some of the statements he's made since have been extremely accusatory, that there was a conspiracy and that the cameras were shut off on purpose. And, it's such a far reach, but I guess when you can say what you want in certain situations now in Chicago and not be held accountable.
Well, the truth of the matter is they recently received those body cameras, a week ago?
Right. So I think that one of the officers that were involved, I believe the one with the camera that wasn't capturing anything during the incident, had the camera for about 4 days. And there's a lot of training involved as far as when it's recording, when it's not recording, but also when you are to engage it, when you're not to engage it. But then you have to add the heightened stress of this situation on top of everything else. When you think you're going to, or you're taking fire, and now you're involved in a foot chase, and your mindset has to break from that to activate the camera. With 4 days of wearing that device, it's kind of a far reach in and of itself as well.
Yeah, and we sat down and did an interview for our Against the Current series on upstream-ideas.com a couple months ago, and you said, get ready for a bloody summer. And your prediction, unfortunately, has come true. July, the bloodiest July in a decade. And then we hear after this shooting and after the suspect had been arrested while awaiting the paramedics, the officers at the scene are talking to one another. And the officer, Ortiz, I believe is his name, who apparently shot Mr. O'Neill, says, I hope the guy is going to be all right. I'm going to get crucified. And it seems to me that was a real insight into the mentality that police have in the climate in which they operate.
Well, we have individuals that are involved in doing police work that get stripped of their police powers, and they're just performing their job. It might not look good on camera, but you're taking action that saves your partner, or you're taking actions that you perceive to be the proper actions at the time. No one wants to come on this job over the course of their career and ever fire their weapon, let alone take someone's life. It's extremely difficult for any human being to be involved in that, and people forget that because these individuals, these women and men, are wearing a blue shirt. And I think that's lost on a lot of what's going on right now. It's not your intention to leave your home, go to work, and then engage in deadly force. It's not what someone does and has that in their mindset, but it's something that you always have to be prepared for. And generally, it's based on the actions of the individual that's involved on the other end of these incidents.
Now, Dean, do you fear that these three officers will be charged criminally?
Oh, I don't think so. At this stage, it's early to tell, but it is 2016 in Chicago, and we don't know what to expect. I don't think there was criminal intent in the mindset of any of these individuals. I think that we have a situation, tragic as it was, that will be investigated. If it's investigated based on what occurred, once the evidence comes out and once the statements are considered, I don't think that there's any criminal charges that are available. But again, it is 2016 in the city of Chicago, and I wouldn't be surprised what can happen. But we're going to be watching this, and we have individuals involved with these officers right now, talking to them, and we'll see what happens.
One of the comments that was made by Officer Ortiz when he got into the ambulance was rather remarkable, and it's kind of been underreported, but he's talking to paramedics, and they're saying, where do you want to go? And it's UFC or Christ Hospital, and the paramedic says, well, they don't like police at Christ Hospital. They're going to make you wait in the waiting room, so why don't we take you to UFC? The idea that there's a hospital in the city of Chicago that has an antagonistic posture towards police as it pertains to providing medical attention, kind of a remarkable statement for a paramedic to make, don't you think?
Well, and the paramedics know. They're in and out of those emergency rooms on a regular basis. They know everybody. And does it surprise me? No. It is where we are at right now. The police have been vilified, and it's gone to the emergency rooms. We generally have an amazing relationship with nurses and emergency room personnel, so it's kind of sad that's where we're at with that institution. But the paramedic would not have made that type of statement if he didn't have some sort of substance to back it up.
Well, I know. That's the frightening part of it. One national question before we let you go. Over the weekend, the National Fraternal Order of Police, the organization you head up in Chicago, found out that Hillary Clinton is not going to seek that union's endorsement. Chuck Canterbury, the National FOP president, said it sends a powerful message. To be honest with you, I was disappointed and shocked. Do you have any reaction to Hillary Clinton deciding not to seek the FOP endorsement?
Well, from what I understand, we've known of this for a couple of weeks now, and we're waiting for the National to come out and say something about it, but because it is a national process, it goes to the national organization. It's their responsibility to reach out and submit a multiple questionnaire for the presidential candidates to complete so that they could share that with their political committee and then to the memberships throughout the different states and consider an endorsement. And I guess Mr. Trump completed his, and Ms. Clinton did not. And from what I remember by the release that was submitted to us was that multiple attempts were made to her camp to get the questionnaire completed so that they could submit it to their committee for review, and the time frame came and left, and it basically fell on deaf ears, and then we were told that, in fact, they were not going to complete the questionnaire, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, they had all their people completing that Black Lives Matter questionnaire.
Yeah.
Dean Angelo Sr., president of FOP Lodge 7 in Chicago. Dean, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
He joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.